Okay, let's get started here. Welcome. Can you guys hear me? Had to run to get a Coke from the Chevron. It was a quick run. Thank you guys for meeting me on a holiday. I know it's kind of hard. I had to do the lecture tonight. I pushed it back a half hour, but due to the schedule just being crazy this week, I needed to stick to the Monday night. So I appreciate you guys, or Monday evening. I appreciate you guys sticking with me here. Almost had to cancel depending on the plans that were going on today, but it, you know, it's like one of those things. So, but I'm good. Hi guys. How is everybody today? Lily, Marla, see if anybody else jumps in. Glad you didn't. Yeah, this probably is going to be like a completely a 2-hour session here. It's gonna, you know, probably will be a little bit quicker here. So we'll get through the information, and then we have a lecture tomorrow as well. So we'll get through that as tomorrow evening for the second half. Your assessment is what I'll be going over then. And if you have any questions from what we're going over today, you definitely can, you know, ask that as well. You know, I have to admit, I'm kind of, you're going to hear me sniffling and coughing again. I don't know if I'm sick or I have allergies, but I still have this thing going on. And I'm on Claritin D right now, and it's like, it's making me all spaced out. So I'm trying to keep everything together and be focused. I don't know if it's allergies or just a long chronic cold thing going on here. I guess 'tis the season, right? So you might hear me kind of coughing. I might turn the mic off so you don't hear me like, you know, coughing like crazy at some point. Hopefully not. I have my tea here. I'm ready to go. You'll hear me kind of clear my throat every now and then, so I apologize. But welcome, Michael. This is week 3. You guys are in mid-mod right now. So this is the halfway point. Oh, okay, you had a lot of coughing earlier. Yeah, it seems like it. I don't have as much during the day, but you know, now that I'm talking, I probably will. But usually in the morning and at night, it's the worst. Yeah, I might have to get something, but all right. Well, welcome you guys. Like I said, this might be a shorter lecture. You know, it's a holiday. You guys should be enjoying the pool. I know I took my daughter to the pool today. It was kind of sad to say goodbye to the pool up here up north. We closed the pools right on after Labor Day, so over the counter doesn't work. Yeah, actually I got a Claritin D, which you have to sign your life away for, I guess, but that seems like the only thing that really works for me. But yeah, so hopefully you guys hopefully you guys are having a great day. And like I said, I'm not going to be, you know, the 2 hours today, so you know, you guys can enjoy the rest of your day. We will be meeting tomorrow as well, so just kind of take it easy today. All right, feedback. We're just going to kind of look at some projects that I pulled from last week that you guys worked on. Hopefully you're getting that feedback from me, and next week you will be revising your assignment that you did submit last week for assignment 4, so just kind of keep that in mind. Lily, you're on Claritin D too as well? No? Okay, well that's good. Sudafed. Oh yeah, I can't do Sudafed. I'll be like a zombie. But it does definitely knock you out. I think I need one good knockout night for me for sure. It's just tough, you know? You have to double up on yours. Ooh, yeah, it's tough when you have to actually be productive the next day. All right, we'll take a look at your, yeah, exactly. We'll take a look at your discussion 3 today. You guys seem like you're really rocking on that, so that's great. And then your assignment 3 we'll go over, and we'll do a demo as well. If you guys have any questions, you know, after that, just let me know. All right, so you guys should be walking away from week 3. You should be creating and utilizing 4 custom vector pattern brushes. So we're going to get into that tomorrow more so for your assessment. We're going to create a complex and seamless pattern today. That's for your assignment 3. That'll be fun. Evaluate illustrations by how the principles of design and craftsmanship are utilized, and recommend solutions and options for improvement. So, you know, we always look at these learning objectives because that's what you should be walking away from each week. So let me click on week 3, and it's pretty much what I just read off of here. Don't forget that there's some really interesting small little videos here that you can take a look at as well. This one's about inspiring thoughts about what innovation really is. Check that out. And then these are nice little shortcut links to course media and all of the pages that you might want to go to next. But that's pretty much what we will be walking away from this week, kind of learning for week 3. All right, as we go right into it, before we get into looking at your projects, I wanted to go over your discussion 3. And this is pretty much straightforward. We are doing critiques here. You know, so are you going to do critiques this week for last week? Yeah, we're just going to take a look at a few. And if you want, if I'm not showing yours, if you want to kind of have me pull it, I can. Yeah. So, and I think Lily, I think I have yours up on a slide, so I think you're good. All right, and I knew you were going to ask that, so I pulled yours. No, actually, I did. I pulled just a few that I thought would be good to talk about. And so if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, so the critique, you know, it's really important. I think critiquing online, can be an online student. It's a little different than when you're actually in a classroom. But I think there's pros and cons about each of them. And yeah, exactly. So it's different when, you know, when you're actually in a physical classroom as opposed to online. But we can all really benefit from each other's feedback. So it's really super important that you guys post your work up as soon as possible for this discussion so that you can get the most feedback. If you're posting later in the week, you may not get as many responses, and everybody kind of can help you kind of apply or see things differently in a different perspective. You know, critiques are great. And then as long as you're doing it constructively, obviously, you know, you're not just saying, oh, I really like that. You know, it's so easy to say that. But maybe kind of bring up some suggestions on how you see something maybe improving if you did a certain thing to an element. You know, be very specific. And we're going to be talking about how to critique too. So plus you get to see all the projects that are turned in, not just a few. Yeah, exactly. You mean in a classroom, if they're there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just fun to kind of like, you know, pin up your work in a classroom experience. It's a little different, but exactly. You know, it'd be really cool is if they had some type of interactive bulletin board, you know, where everybody can just pin up their work and just, you know, kind of go from there. And it would be almost like you're live in the classroom, but you're not. It'd be kind of neat. Is something I just thought about. Okay. So anyway, basically, you're going to be giving feedback for, you know, for each other's work, giving constructive criticism. All of this background information, go ahead and read through. It kind of gives you a nice synopsis of why it is important for giving and receiving constructive criticism. This can really kind of evolve and make you see things differently, not just in the discussion, but your work. You know, sometimes we if it's not an actual critique and we're just kind of discussing a topic, we could bring up different perspectives, just like we can in, you know, critiquing our work as well. All right, so basically in this week's discussion, you will be getting and giving critique of the illustrations from last week. You must include an explanation of your concept and goals of the illustration. And I did notice a lot of you, well, maybe not a lot, but some of you guys didn't quite either. It was either like you did a really good job researching and then the draft wasn't as pulled through. And I mean by like, you know, it wasn't as developed, I guess. Or you didn't really do as much research, or, you know, it wasn't very clear on what your inspiration was because maybe you had 3 separate different styles that you were showing. And then you had your work was, you know, the draft was really kind of evolved and looking almost like a final project. So just kind of make sure that you're paying attention to the details all across the board. You're providing inspirational artwork examples close to what your working on. So if you're doing like a book cover, for example, you might want to look up book covers that inspire you, that have that same illustration style. It doesn't mean you always have to show a book cover example. You could just show an illustration style, but just make sure your 3 examples are very close in style with each other. Because I did notice a few of you had 3 separate styles, and then I was a little confused on what the direction that you really were going. Okay, so just kind of pay attention to that. So what was your thought process to come up with the idea? Where did you find your inspiration? Where would it be used? And what style are you aiming for? So it's really important to get these details down, because this is really the concept of what you're working on. So you need to understand, how you got there, and why you did what you did. Communicating this is really important, because when you're communicating to a client, they sometimes don't understand the process and what you go through. So communicating to them in a way that they can understand where you came up with that concept in a professional way is really important, because it can really sell what you're showing them. And I say sell, but you know what I mean, make them kind of say, yeah, I get that concept now. Maybe they didn't get it before because they were a little, were looking at something else and weren't really seeing it in some way. So you're kind of showing them, I did this research, the process steps that I went through. This is kind of where I kind of came up with this idea. What style are you aiming for? So you can embed an image of your illustration. So this is what you turn in, and you can go ahead and revise it and then embed your image. Like, you don't have to actually just submit your, what you submitted in week 2. Like, if you already went and did changes to it, go ahead and embed that, updated version. It says here, if you're not comfortable sharing your own work, you may post an example of the type and style of illustration that you're aiming for, clearly explaining that it is not your work, including a credit and citation, and describe the process you would use on how to accomplish that. Yeah, okay. So, and then in your responses to your peers include give constructive feedback based on the principles of design. So you can actually link what they're doing to the principles of design. Talk about, you guys remember what the principles of design are? There you go. And there's kind of more to that, but that's the basic CRAP. Yep. So you guys have that drilled into your heads. Obviously you want to use that. Talk about those specific things. Do you see that? Do you see those individual principles of design, happening in that composition or concept, CARP? And craftsmanship, maybe they have the principles of design, but maybe the craftsmanship is lacking. Maybe there's more improvement that needs to be done with the overall, output of the what's kind of being created. The illustration itself maybe needs more refinement. Take the concept and goal described into consideration when giving suggestions to improve or strengthen the concept. So what is the problem? What are you trying to solve? Kind of understand that overall goal. Aw, hey Bella. It's a cute name for a dog. I love people names for dogs. Oh, she's like, I want to give some feedback. Remember, just saying I like your direction isn't enough for someone to understand what they have done right. Tell them what you liked and why you liked what they did. Why do you think it's successful? Just don't be subjective about it. Be objective. So, give the facts. Why do you think it's successful? Why do you think, it needs a little bit more refinement? All right, so for your citation, you might use articles that show examples of design principles. That might be really nice to show if somebody's really struggling with some of the design principles. Maybe they just need to kind of look at, okay, get me back on track. How can I use the design principles? How can I push this to maybe better follow the design principles? And then showing the example might really inspire them to kind of think of it in a different way. You can also find articles from experts that show successfully executed design concepts and case studies, how they became successful based on critiques. You can utilize the Shark library for design case studies to help you get started. Okay, so basically all the other information is kind of what you guys are used to, but this is how you would embed an image in your discussion if you're unsure of how to do that. And then don't forget you're kind of setting, excuse me, you're following along the reply requirements. There are also some examples here, which are kind of nice to look at just to make sure you're, you know, kind of on the same level as what is being shown here. Now there is some feedback that is in the sticky notes that you can read as well, but at least you can kind of see what a good post is. And you know, obviously there's some spelling errors here, but you can kind of see what other people are doing that is considered acceptable here. So let's open up the other example. Here's the other one. So these people look like they were embedding their images into their Word file here, or their layout as well. Here's their citation, this one. So definitely read those if you're, you know, if you need clarification of how to approach that. It's kind of nice to have that in there. Any questions about that? Pretty straightforward. I see a lot of you guys already posting, which is great. Great. Just a couple things here. I thought this was kind of a neat article talking about the simple rules for giving great design feedback. And this is always nice to kind of, for me to read, because I can give that to you guys as well. But this is a neat article because it talks about, this is really an important part of the design process, and probably the most important because it really kind of evolves your work, and also you learn from it. Okay, use the media. That's pretty cool. All right, so, you know, just a couple things here. Be specific when you're giving feedback to your peers. So don't be vague with your design feedback. You know, like say, make it pop, or it's too bland. They're difficult to interpret. So design is subjective. What pops to you and what pops to your designer could be two different things. You might think pop means brighter colors. I think pop means bigger and bolder. Do you see how this can cause problems? So don't expect your designer to know what you mean. Be specific. Here's an example of bad feedback. It needs more pop. Instead, maybe say the colors might be a bit muted for our younger or young audience. A brighter color scheme might appeal to them and be more on brand. Number 2, don't micromanage. So how do you do this without, you know, how do you give specific critique without micromanaging your designer? Present your designer with the problem, not just the solution. Now this is in, you know, kind of saying it to fellow designers. So this is kind of in that perspective here. All right. So instead of saying, can you make that title bigger? Good feedback would be, I'm worried that people won't be able to distinguish the title from the rest of the text on the page. How can we put more emphasis on it? Yep, sandwich method. You got it, Lily. Give examples. So, you know, bad feedback would be, this isn't what I imagined bold and trendy would look like. Instead, say, this isn't what I imagined bold and trendy would look like. Here's an example of what I had in mind. The large type and lots of white space on this site is in line with my vision. Keep it balanced. You know, here we are. Lily talked about the sandwich method here. You know, giving the negative feedback is important, but, you know, people respond to both, you know, having the positive feedback within your critique, they respond to it a little bit better instead of saying all negatives. So for good feedback, it took me a while to notice the call to action. Can we try to make this more visible? Better feedback would be, the overall layout is clean and easy to navigate. However, it took me a while to notice the call to action. Can we try to make this more visible on the page? So you're kind of giving a positive with a negative there. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. So instead of not saying anything at all, good feedback would be, I'm used to seeing websites with the menu on the top of the page. Is there a reason why you chose to put it on the left instead of not saying anything? Yep. Don't make it about you. I'm sorry, I'm reading the chat here. Instead of saying, I don't like the font, can we change it? Say the font seems playful, but our audience is middle-aged and mature. Is this the best choice? Oh, okay, yeah, the shadow highlight. Yep. You got it, Lily. Play nice, obviously, we're kind of used to receiving that feedback, okay, but we still are, vulnerable to the emotional part of that, even though we know, this is more, should be constructive criticism. It's not personal. So, just kind of keep in mind that people are trying to help you. And it's nothing against you as a person. So bad feedback would be where you put the social media icons doesn't make any sense. That's kind of like a bad way to say it. A good way to say the feedback would be the placement of the social media icons was confusing to me. I'm used to seeing them in the footer. Is this the best place for them? Yep, exactly, Marla. Yep. So just kind of a couple things to think about when you are giving the feedback to each other for this. Kind of, it is all in how you say it, Yeah, and you can, it's true in life in a lot of ways, so just kind of keep that in mind when you're doing your discussions. All right, I think you guys are pretty good with that. So let's go into my slides again here. Did anybody have any questions about what we went over last week? Yeah, there's all pros and cons about it. Definitely, Lily. That's funny, Marla. I have both experiences too, and I always like to tell you guys my story because I think it's important. When I was an undergrad design student, I did all of my classes, my design classes, on ground campus. So I was actually in a classroom for 4 years, for my degree. And then when I went for my master's, I did it all online. So I had both experiences, and just like with anything, there's pros and cons about both of them. And I think it's tough with design. I think that is one of the challenges with the teaching design, and also you guys learning design online. It's a little different than when you're going in a on-ground experience. I'm not saying it's better. It's just a little different. So we all have to kind of maybe be a little bit more self-reliant and really try to collaborate and participate a little bit more as online designers, because we are not sitting next to somebody and everybody in the classroom all at one time. So, that communication is super important. Okay, you were on ground for your first class? Yeah. Then, you just have to go with the flow. It's sometimes it's not for everyone either. So you would have been lost. Yeah. Yeah. But I think it's good. I mean, there's definitely a lot of pros to it as well. All right, let's take a look. So we don't have any questions about the discussion. We're all good, and nothing about last week. Okay. I just pulled a few projects here to talk about. I don't have names with these projects, so we'll just kind of talk about them. And this one is a billboard, and the inspiration is on the top, and the draft is on the bottom. Where's the flames, right? I like the actual typeface used for the state name. I think that works really well because it has, it has an organic flow to it, and it works really well and unifies with the actual elements within this actual billboard. Yep. I like the little tail in there. Yeah, so some of the feedback that I had given was maybe kind of shift the sunset or the sunrise, whatever this may be, to the left and kind of have it be the focal point of the name, because you see Arizona over there, but I kind of am drawn to the sunset or the sunrise, whatever it would be first. So it would be really nice if the eye would go right to the Arizona all at one time. Oh, okay, so it's a little different. Okay, so she might have changed that. Paradise in the Desert. But overall, I just think that, yeah, I mean, she definitely can variate the sizes of cacti, like somebody had said. But I think overall, this person did a great job with seeing something inspirational wise, the style, and kind of emulating that with a really, strong typeface. That looks great. A few tweaks. Yep. Okay, this is the next one here. Visual inspiration on the left, and then the outcome on the right, which is a book cover. Love the skyline. You like that one too? Yeah, I think my feedback on this one was maybe to, and it doesn't bother me too much, but looking at the inspiration on the left, maybe taking out a few colors that may not need to be there, maybe focus on 2 to 3 colors instead of 4 plus colors, and that might unify the overall book cover a little bit better. Yeah, bring it down so the line difference isn't in the middle. Yep. You mean like the actual where the horizontal line is? It's not cutting it in half. Yeah. Yep, that's a good point, because this actually looks like it's almost in the middle. When you cut a layout in half in this way, it makes an automatic disconnect. So it's always good to kind of go with like a rule of thirds type of a layout. So good point for sure. Triangle boats. Yeah, I kind of lost the boats, but bring it down or up. Yep. And there's some things that can be downsized, like the byline can definitely be smaller. So that could kind of allow more space and, for things to shift around. But, great job with the details. I definitely can see the inspiration going on here. The windows are a different perspective on this one versus the ones that you're seeing in the inspiration kind of are like straight on. And the windows on this one are kind of a different perspective. So that's another difference there. Shadow looks really good. Yep. You mean like the reflection and the shadow? Yeah, it's instead of it being flat blue, you can see that reflection in the water, which is really cool. Good. Here's another example here. And this one's a poster. And this person was inspired by Macbeth and these illustration styles on the left-hand side here. Overall, I think it's a very graphic and effective image for this. I can definitely see the parallels with the inspirational images. Yeah. I think the only thing, which is super small, is to just kind of add the date and the time. But that's that could be very small, and it could be somewhere secondary. But yeah, what is it for exactly? What is this? Needs more blood on the hands. But definitely grabs your eyes, grabs your attention. The typeface really works well with this style. Yeah. Just a little bit more information. And Lily, this is yours. We kind of looked at yours before, so I wanted to bring it up. I think you did an excellent job doing these revisions. And I had just made, I think, just the comment about the black circle on the back side. That's so prominent. And because you don't really have black anywhere else other than the barcode and, you know, the little simple elements in the key, I think it sticks out a little bit too much. So I think just using a white border would be probably better. Keep it nice and light and soft. Okay, there you go. But what do you think about what you had before we looked at your work and now that you have it? The color, you know, the overall elements that were shifted. Do you think that it looks a lot better, the typeface? Okay, softer than brown. What about the name being white? I like the name white. I think it works.
Change the name from using the blue, put the name in the blue, and then change in the Classic Illustrated Collective to white.
I actually like it the way it is. Because the Secret Garden is, I don't know, I think it works really well in the white. You could try it. Yeah, I mean, play around with it, see what, I think it would look a little heavier, and I like the lightness of it. I think that's why I'm kind of saying keep it. You can make also, and I don't think I mentioned this before, your details of the US, Canada, I see you have like a price tag there. You can make that much smaller, even smaller than your body copy. That's kind of like, you know, the information that you don't really want to put on there, but you have to put on there. Yeah, she's hiding the keys in there. Yeah, but I think, you know, you have a really nice, I think the typeface that you changed it to ties in a lot. It's a lot better than what you had before, because it has more of a, I like to say a little bit more of a similar characteristic to what you're inspired by. Yeah. The other one was a little kind of stuck out. This kind of fits really well. Yeah. With everything and the theme. Flip the key on the spine. You could probably make that key a little smaller too, kind of give that some space in between. Face the title. Any other comments? You got some good feedback here so far. You could probably make the picture just about 30% smaller too. The whole picture with the flourish just a little smaller. Kind of gain that nice space kind of around it to frame. The more space that you have around your elements, the more important the information inside will be. If you have everything really big and not like any nice space around it, it becomes less important. To kind of give you that idea. And this is something that you'll learn, you know, within time, that you're kind of adjusting things and editing. We feel the need sometimes to fill up the space because it's empty, but that empty space you need to embrace, because that can really kind of elevate your work. It frames what's important. Yes, negative space. Think of it as, and I always like to say this, you know, when you have a picture and you put it in a frame, and the bigger the margined frame that you have, the more important the picture in the middle becomes, you know, more of a focal point, more important. But I like the color change that you did here. I think this is a better example. Like, I think the colors that you chose here are more in line with what you were inspired by. The other ones were the colors that you have were the darker, heavier colors. Yeah. So I'm glad you kind of experimented with that. So good job. Any other comments or questions? No? Great. Yep, you're welcome. And, you know, if you wanted to talk about yours and I didn't pull that up, let me know. We can definitely go over that. I just pulled a few, but it's always nice to see what other people are working on. I kind of learn from their feedback as well. Okay, so let's go to your assignment 3. Let's get into the information here. Did anybody start this yet? Making patterns. All right, some people, yes. I think this is a fun project. Excuse me. All right, so we're going to be creating patterns, seamless vector patterns for assignment 3. I'm going to read through this. Let me know if you have any questions. All right, designing custom vector patterns is a specific skill that can be utilized and incorporated with illustration, branding, packaging, web design, and more, as well as a standalone project to be used for surface design and a variety of materials. Complex seamless vector patterns can be sold to companies and individuals with different usage rights and are valued for their abilities to be scaled and modified. I mean, think about all the things that patterns are on, you know, packaging. You know, think of all the, you know, different packaging, boxes, inside boxes, liners, cards, you know, things like that, wrapping paper, yep. So there, you know, there's definitely uses for this, and we're going to kind of learn how to create a seamless pattern here. So a complex interlocking pattern is different from the simple repeating patterns you may have created before in that it will not only involve a single item repeated in different arrangements and spacing, but the design will interlock with other elements in the pattern, creating a less structured repeat, resulting in a more organic and natural feeling pattern. So you see the letter A there. A simple pattern created by tiling a single object is being shown there with the flower. Letter B, complex pattern with two shapes at different angles and distance. You see the big flower and the little flower kind of at different angles. Letter C, complex pattern with interlocking shapes. Little fish down there. And then letter D, complex patterns with groups of different colored objects. All right, so quality design work is not able to be automated. For the interlocking repeat to be successful and seamless, you will have to do some careful planning and testing. You will have to be willing to put in time and effort and possibly several rounds of testing and revisions to come out with a successful design. That work and attention to detail is the mark of an artist. There are several ways to go about creating custom pattern, from using mathematical calculations to create your repeat to working from your own hand drawings and sketches. This week's course media covers several different approaches. The complexity of your design will determine the best way to approach your pattern design. Hold on one second, Lily. One good way to understand how interlocking patterns work and are different from simple repeats is to open one of the ready-made pattern swatches in Illustrator and go into edit mode so you can see how it's constructed. By changing and moving the existing shapes, you can repeat a whole new pattern and see how your changes affect the overall repeat. So for this assignment, you're going to create an interlocking seamless pattern. Study the techniques shown in the week's media. Look for inspiration and decide on a motif for your pattern. This is a creative assignment where you can explore your own limits and ideas. Assignment instructions. It is up to you how complex and involved you want the pattern to be, but you have to go a step beyond creating a simple pattern. Your pattern can be abstract or representational, but it needs to include at least 2 different components that have varied colors and or relationship distance to each other or interlock and intertwines with one another. See examples above. Okay. All right, so open an 8x8 inch Illustrator document. Okay, logo class work right now. Lily, you said I couldn't quite get my pattern to work in the advanced logo class. Okay, sorry, I didn't get to that. Create your design components and make a pattern swatch from it. In edit mode, make any adjustments and modifications to the placement and or shape of your objects until you're satisfied with the repeat, and save the finished pattern swatch. Carefully consider your color choices based on your understanding of color theory. Create an 8x8 inch square to cover the artboard completely and fill it with the pattern. The pattern can have a background color included in it, or you can add it on a separate layer in the document. You can scale or scale and or rotate the pattern as you wish. Delete any unused pattern and color swatches and save your Illustrator file when you're ready, as well as a PDF for submission. So you're going to submit both the AI file, the native Illustrator file, and the PDF for grading. All right, here are some benchmark examples that I'm going to open up here. This is one of them. And the comment here, if you read the sticky note, says, it's just talking about this white space here. It says, with this even of a pattern, the gap right here makes it look inconsistent. Move the left side of the pattern toolbox and just a little, you can see the spacing become even. And I'll show you how to do that. That is one example there with some revisions. All right, the second one, oops. We have the second one here. No. There we go. Oh, this is a cute one. I only clicked on the first one, but now I see this one. It's kind of cute. Pizza slice here. Fun pattern. It's the pizza. Fun pattern. The background color would make, and I can't see this here, would make it feel more finished and show off the colors. So maybe like a darker background color. Okay, so you can see how, and I'm going to open up Illustrator here. Does anybody have any questions with what was kind of just read out loud there? Okay, so I'm just opening up Illustrator. I'm going to make this, actually, I'm going to save this file new. We'll do 8x8. All right, guys, you guys are so easy. I love this class. You guys make it so easy. Okay, 8x8. So 8x8 in Illustrator, non-complicated, no drama, right? So you're going to create a really cool pattern that's not just going to be one element, okay? So, it's completely up to you. You can really have fun with this. You saw how abstract, to a hole for drama. You saw how abstract the pizza, I'm sorry, the drops that you saw, they were kind of more abstract. I don't know if they were teardrops or water droplets. And then the pizza, obviously, you could see that it was a pizza slice and then it was being rotated and flipped. I'm going to kind of do just something real simple here. Let me do some circles that I'm going to give a color to. Think about color theory and like how you're going to apply that. Maybe you're dealing with complementary colors more so. So I'm going to do maybe like blue and yellow, because that's opposite of each other on the color wheel. Let's do like a gold. Just kind of play around with that. Think about that, I guess, when you're doing this. A little darker here. You can play around with the opacity. I'm going to give a different look. The feel. Just going to kind of zoom in on this, and then I'm going to do maybe like, let's see here. Just do something interesting. I'm going to do white. Kind of like a white outline. Look at my stroke panel here. But this is where the creative part comes into play. You guys have a lot of creative freedom in regards to what you end up doing here. As long as you don't have just one element and you're playing around with, maybe two different elements coming together. These are good. Yeah, I could do something themed for the holiday. Yeah, Halloween. That's a good idea there. Don't forget about like the width tool, all the things that you guys kind of learned. You can play around with this for this project. Maybe not so much gradient meshes, but just gonna play around with that. Different tools in here that you can mess with. Keep this a little simple. All right. I'm just making these simple shapes here. Oops. And you can tell they're all different. I'm gonna align these so they're perfectly centered. Kind of different. Maybe I'll make this one. Let's see, maybe I'll make that one more like a purple. Sorry, guys. Here we go. And it starts, right? Pull this up just a little bit. All right, so play around with it. You can have like one separate element out here if you want. But when you're ready to create your pattern, eyeball soup, there you go. When you're ready to create your pattern, now let me pull this up just a little bit. There we go. You're gonna select all. You can group it if you want. let me mute my mic here a sec. Okay, grab the old water there. All right, so when you're ready to create a pattern, you go up to Object with your pattern selected and choose Object Pattern Make. Boom. Automatically your pattern is ready to go. It actually opens up not only your viewing area here, your new pattern artboard that you can kind of play around with the bounding box, which we're going to do here in a second, but it also brings up your pattern options panel box. And this is kind of interesting because you have an actual tool here that when you click on it, you can actually go into your artboard and play around with your bounding box, your actual pattern box here. So if I were to pull this in, I'm going to hold Shift so you can see the changes happening. As I'm pulling this box in, it's kind of adjusting the width and the height, and you can see it kind of changing in there, of the space that the pattern is in. Now you can do the opposite. You can pull it out and you have more space around your pattern. So that's one way you can adjust it. Let's say I was happy with that. You can see in your pattern options box. Yeah, so work within the patterns panel. Yep. You can name this a new pattern. I'm going to name this circles or eyeballs, right? You can choose different ways to align here, brick by brick, column by column, hex column. It's really kind of what you make it. Mine's a little bit more abstract. I'm just going to go with grid. This is the width and height, which you can adjust as I showed you here. Move with tile art. That's basically what we just did. Yep. Here's overlapping. So that's the elements that you have in your actual illustration. Do you want left in front or right in front? You know, so you can actually kind of like do a different overlap. So you can play around with that. It's kind of cool. And copies, you know, you can take a look at this. This kind of just sets it on the artboard. And I'm just going to leave this at 5 by 5. It's kind of a little bit closer to what we have for our artboard. The dim copies too is basically what's overlapped here. If you were to make this 100%, you'll see, you know, all full color 100%. Now don't forget, I had some that were at a different opacity, so this might look a little different. All right. When you're ready to commit, say you wanted this pattern and everything looks good, you're going to click on the done up here on the very top of your artboard. It says done. And what's going to happen is you're not going to see it anymore, but when you open up your swatches, if you have swatches up, which I think mine was hiding here, hold on. Where'd mine go? Go back here. It's going to save it right in here, and it's going to be whatever you named it to be or the default name. Yeah. So if you delete that and then go ahead and take your rectangle tool, and then you just draw a box of the same size as your canvas or whatever size that you want to place this pattern into. And then you choose your pattern. It's going to place that pattern right inside. Any questions about that? Awesome, yeah. I'm going to play a short little video here too. It kind of explains the same thing in here, gives a little bit more detail, just in a different way, but same steps. And let me know if you have any questions here. Hold on one second. I think it's kind of an interesting video.
In this movie, I'll show you how to turn this collection of spirals into a seamlessly repeating pattern using the pattern generator. I'll also introduce you to the pattern options panel. You'll want to start things off by pressing Control A or Command A on the Mac to select all of the spirals that you've drawn so far. Then, to turn them into a pattern, go up to the Object menu, choose Pattern, and choose Make. You'll see an alert message that's telling you that a new pattern has been added to the swatches panel. And if you take a look at the swatches panel, you'll see that that's true. We have this tiny little new pattern swatch, which so far goes unnamed. Also note that any changes made in the pattern editing mode will be applied to the swatch upon exit. That's very important. When in doubt, Illustrator goes ahead and saves your changes. And we'll see what that looks like before this movie's over. For now, you can turn on the Don't Show Again checkbox if you like, and then click OK. Now notice that you'll see the Pattern Options panel somewhere on screen. I'm going to move it over a little bit like so. And next, what you want to do is switch to this Pattern Tile tool, which is an independent tool that's at work inside this panel. So notice that currently my black arrow tool is selected at the top of the toolbox. As soon as I click on the Pattern Tile tool, the black arrow tool is no longer selected because this tool takes over. So Illustrator does offer a few hidden tools inside of its panels. Now you'll see that you have this bounding box with a total of 8 handles. And you can modify the size of the bounding box by dragging a corner handle or one of the side handles or a top or bottom handle as well. And notice as you do so, especially if you drag inward, you're going to move the spirals closer together. Now I want you to look very closely, and if you do, you'll see that the strokes of the repeating spirals appear to be lighter in color than the spirals on the inside here. So see that? They look a little bit white around this area right here, whereas they look a little bit bluish in this region. All of the strokes are the exact same color, so they ought to match. Well, what's going on here is we're seeing the copies dimmed. So if you were to change the dim copies value to say 20%, press the Enter key or the Return key on the Mac, then you will see some very light copies indeed with some light strokes as well. If you want to see everything the way it's really going to repeat, then go ahead and turn this checkbox off, and you'll see that all of the strokes exactly match. Now I'm going to go ahead and modify the size of this bounding box just a little. And notice that I've got the height now set to 168 points, which is exactly what I'm looking for. I want the width, and this is just because I was fooling around with things here. I want it to be 158.7345. Now, you don't have to make it exactly that size, but I just want to make sure that all of the files I give you match. And now I'll press the Enter key or the Return key on the Mac in order to accept that change. Now I'll go ahead and click. Notice right there on this center point. So you'll have to kind of hunt around for it inside the bounding box. But when you hover your cursor exactly over the center, you'll see that it lights up. And I'm going to drag that center point down to approximately this location on this second ridge on the inside of the spiral. So right about there. Again, I'm just trying to make sure everything's as predictable as possible. You can totally go your own way. Finally, once you get things set up the way you like, go ahead and assign a name to this pattern. And I'm going to call mine C spirals, like so. And now, in order to apply your changes, you want to go up here to these options inside this kind of pattern isolation mode and click the Done button. Or you can press the Escape key. So rather than activating the cancel button, which is what normally happens when you press the escape key, you activate the done button. If you want to cancel what you've done, you've got to click on cancel, in other words. So I'll just go ahead and press the escape key. And the first time that I pressed escape, the name was active. So that just went ahead and accepted the name. Now I'll press the escape key again in order to create that new pattern. And you can see that it's now called C spirals here inside the swatches panel. All right, let's see how it works by zooming out from the artwork. And I'll go ahead and select the rectangle tool, which you can get by pressing the M key. I want to make sure that we're snapping to the artboard. So I'll go up to the View menu and choose Smart Guides, or you can press Control-U or Command-U on the Mac. And now drag from the top left corner or the top right corner, whatever you like to do, to the opposite corner, like so, in order to create a new rectangle. And I'm going to change the stroke up here in the control panel to none. And then I'll click on the first swatch for the fill and change it to C spirals, which is that pattern I just created. And just to be safe, I'll press Control-Shift-A or Command-Shift-A on the Mac to deselect that rectangle. And now I'll switch back to my black arrow tool. And I'll press Control-0 or Command-0 on the Mac, and then Control-plus or Command-plus in order to zoom in. And I can see that I have a seamlessly repeating pattern. Now, if you want to make any changes to your pattern, all you need to do is click on its swatch here inside the swatches panel. But as I say, it's safer if the artwork is deselected. So if it isn't, press Control-Shift-A, Command-Shift-A in the Mac. That way, you're not going to modify the selected artwork. Then, double-click on C spirals in order to return to the pattern generator and bring back up the pattern options dialog box. And I'm going to once again select the pattern tile tool, and I'm going to increase the size of the bounding box like so, just so you can see what a difference it makes. So if I expand the size of the panel, then I'm creating some white space between each one of the tiles. And you can also modify the ingredients of the tile pattern if you want to by switching back to any of the other tools here inside the toolbox. So I'll switch back to the black arrow tool, which I can get by pressing the V key, and then I'll click on this innermost spiral in order to select it, and I'll just drag it to an arbitrary new location like that. And you can see the entire pattern updates in kind. Now to apply my changes, I'll either click on the Done button or just press the Escape key, and that goes ahead and updates that filled rectangle. Now obviously that's not what I want, so I need to undo my change. Well, that's actually more work than you might think. The first time you press Control-C or Command-Z on the Mac, you return to the pattern generator mode and you bring back up the pattern options dialog box. If you press Control-C or Command-Z again, then you undo your last change to the bounding box, and so on. So in other words, you've got to undo each and every step that you applied. Or you could just press Control or Command-Z once, or in my case twice, doesn't matter, just to get back inside the pattern generator mode, and then click on the cancel button. There's no keyboard shortcut here, just click cancel, and that'll go ahead and cancel that entire process. And you'll return to the good version, in my case, of the pattern. Now, one last thing I want to mention. I'll go ahead and zoom in here, and we'll see if you can make it out. Notice here at 300% that I can see a vertical seam in my pattern. And you may see horizontal seams as well. You may not see it in the video very well, but if you're working along with me, you'll definitely see it on screen. This is a figment of Illustrator's imagination. It's just a function of the screen preview. If you print this artwork, or if you export the document to a pixel-based image format by going to the File menu and choosing the Export command, then those seams will absolutely go away. But if you have any concerns whatsoever, go ahead and choose the Print command and you'll see those seams disappear. And that's how you create a seamlessly repeating pattern using the pattern generator here inside Illustrator.
Okay. So a couple things that I actually didn't touch upon, which were the editing the pattern that video kind of covered for me. So that was great. And how to undo as well. So, just kind of double clicking on the pattern, Command-Shift-A to undo the selection. You can go in and change a specific, part of your design. Like say if you didn't want these inner circles, for example, you can see that change being made there onto all of them within the pattern itself. Any questions about any of that information that you guys just received through the video and also my demo? Pretty cool though. And you can apply that to any shape, you know, say if you had a circle, you can apply that pattern to a shape. Let's see if we actually do. I think if you test, if you outline the type, you can do it to type too. Let me see. I've actually tried, but we'll see. Oops. Pretty big. Create outlines. Let's see if we can apply it to that. Yep. You can't hear me very well. Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Okay. So I was just saying that you can apply it to type as well. You just need to outline the type. Okay. This is really weird. All right. So very cool. You know, can play around with the type of pattern that you want. You can use the pen tool to create your patterns, or just the simple line tools or shape tools. It doesn't have to be so abstract like I did. You could do like a pizza, kind of like the example. Okay, good. I'm not sure why it goes in and out. I think it's my mic. All right. I heard my computer running, so I don't know if it was from that or what. I'm gonna have to do a mic test the next time. I totally forgot about that. If you want to kind of read through the rubrics to make sure you're meeting on all, you know, meeting all the criteria, I think that's a great thing to do so that you understand what you're supposed to do. If you're confused on what the outcomes are, you know, this definitely is a great place to read through how I'm going to evaluate your work. So just make sure you're not just doing one simple pattern like this example here, which is one shape. You know, variate it with at least two different elements, and try to do a seamless pattern with that. I didn't show you the background. You could do a background color, or you can apply it, say, to a background color. So let's say you want to show it like this. Oops, it's in the back. And let's give this like a little bit of a gray look here. You can do that as well. Just kind of place your background color in and then put your pattern on top. Or you can add it into your pattern itself. This is kind of separate. Oh, sorry guys. Thought I was sharing my screen. So I just put a rectangle separately, and it says that in the instructions. You can do it separately or actually place it in your pattern, into your actual pattern, the background color. Let's see how much it changes that, you know, that overall look. So you might want to play around with that too. Play with, you know, if you're doing a certain color, you might want to kind of offset it with, you know, a different hue in the background, the contrast. There you go, Marla. That's the word I was looking for. Okay, no questions. Everybody's pretty much clear on what to do on this assignment. Correcto mundo? I'm in a weird mood today, guys. I think it's the clarity getting in my head. I think this is kind of a cool, I think you could do so many things with this. You know, try different things, different icons that you create. Might be kind of fun to play around with. You're weird all the time. I like you. I think designers are just kind of like, in a good way, weird. So that's a good thing. We don't take life too seriously. Let's just say that. That's awesome. Why bother, right? Life's short. All right, guys. Well, this is pretty much what I had to cover today. If you want to show any work, if you want us to look at anything that, you know, we have not seen as of yet, or if you have any questions, want to go over anything, now is the time. We're going to be covering assessment 3 tomorrow. So we're going to go over brushes. Marla, week 2. Okay, let me see here. Let me pull up my slides here. Hold on 1 second here. I'll grab your work. Oh, okay. Do you want me to pull up in the discussion, or do you want me to pull it up from the grade book? Thanks, Michael. Have a good night. Okay. We'll do maybe this discussion here. Let's see. Let's take a look. Let me stop sharing this. We'll go right into the discussions here. All right. Here we are. Here we are. Excuse me, guys. All right. Let me make this bigger here. All right. So we're doing a billboard here for Australia, which is like one of my favorite places I want to go to. Definitely on my bucket list. Did you get my feedback, Marla, of the 2 billboards? Okay. All right. I like the typeface, like I said. I think that's a really strong typeface for the first one. I think that works well for it because it's a newer, more modern typeface, but it kind of emulates the idea of Australia being a very diverse place too. Yeah, the script is a little bit, it's smaller, it's a little harder to read. If it was farther away, you know, I think about it in that regards. So that's a good point. From outback to ocean. So maybe in that regards, making the Visit Australia just about 30% smaller so you can make that a little bit bigger. Maybe kind of what you need to allow for readability there. The top from outback to ocean on the very top, first concept. You know, I look at the first one and then I look at the second one, and I think I mentioned this. The first one looks so much more up to date than the second one. I like the ruggedness of the second one because it does go along with like how rugged Australia is. But for some reason, I don't know if it's the overall color and how it's illustrated, it doesn't look as updated as the first one. It's a little bit more dated looking. Let's see. You like the second one? I mean, I think it works. I just think that it's 2 different styles for sure. You know, and it's really based on who the audience that you're trying to speak to, who they are. It has a big, you know, big deal with what, you know, elements that you choose. Yeah, versatile is good. You know, you want it to be versatile. You want it to be appropriate for what you know, appropriate for the actual country that you're talking about. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that looks, you know, you can kind of play around with the gradient angle, maybe even more so. You can see the angle, and I didn't touch upon this, but I see the angle straight up in the green part, but maybe kind of a different location on the other side, you know, kind of make it blend a little bit better together. I don't know. It doesn't bother me too much, but it's something that you can definitely kind of play around with. But the first concept is definitely more of a more updated look. I think it's the typeface that really kind of does that, as well as the colors. You know, they're more bright. The other ones are more muted. But yeah, that was a good point about making the tagline on the top a little bit bigger. The high and low countryside. Okay. I gotcha. Okay. So you're showing like the two parts. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else that anybody else has comments on? I know Lily, you're the only one here that Michael left, but maybe what about maybe a call to action of some sort? It could even be as easy as like a simple web address. Since it is a billboard. You don't want to put too much information on there, but I don't think having just a web address would be, you know, overdoing it. Yep. Australia.com. Yeah, so two different directions. I think they both work in different ways, but I think it reads, I think the first concept is the strongest because it does look more modern, up to date, yet it still has, you know, you have that script in there, kind of balances nicely with that modern type. Yeah, it's more eye-catching. It looks more vibrant. When I think of Australia, you know, you think about the culture and what you see there. It's very vibrant, the oceans and the coral, you know, maybe adding more coral color into this, you know, because the ocean, the Great Barrier Reef has a big, it's a big deal. It's one of the biggest barrier reefs in the world. So, you know, playing upon those colors, maybe applying that even to the land that you have here might make it even stand out even more. Yeah, but great job overall. I just, you know, I love Australia. So I was like, you know, I was excited when I saw this, and I was excited by the typeface, the first concept. So I think you definitely have a good concept going on here. You just, you know, maybe just kind of build upon it with what we kind of suggested there. Yep, you're welcome. No problem. And what's really, what I would do too, did you look up Australia websites, you know, traveling sites? You know, if you're doing kind of like a travel billboard, it might be great to do some research and just see what other people have out there to align yours effectively with other people's. So, you know, here's some colors that they're using in this logo that you might think about. Oh, okay, cool, very cool. Let's just go to visit Australia. We'll look at images here. See if, look at the colors in there. You know, it's something that you can pull from. There. Oh, that's really cool. What an experience that is, huh? So you might want to think about, you know, using these deep red rock colors in your, yeah. See how vibrant and saturated the colors are? So you might think about implementing that color or those colors into your work as well. Well, that's a really neat experience. That's pretty cool. I'm jealous. Yeah, the spiders. Once in a lifetime. Yeah, for sure. But what a cool experience for your son to be there for like a month. Ah, well, you never know. You might go with him someday. He might take you there. That'd be nice, huh? Exactly. I'm your mom. Take me. That's funny. But yeah, just pull from that, do your research. If you're doing a book cover about, a subject, look up inspirational images to help you kind of pull those elements together, what you're inspired by, the color theme, typography. It's just with anything. When you're developing a logo, you want to be inspired by what works out there, but you don't want to totally emulate what you see. You want to make it different. You want to make it custom and unique as well. But I think that, the research is super important to do before kind of attempting the final project and doing your revisions. Oh, okay. It's just crazy, like so many cool opportunities that kids have out there now. And that's just in choir. I mean, I remember having choir and we never got to do cool things like that. Wow, that's so cool. That's pretty neat. All right, guys, did you have anything else that you wanted to look at? I'm going to start coughing now. Okay, we're going to meet the same time tomorrow, and we're going to go over your assessment 3. And if you want to go over anything at that time too, definitely bring it in. We'll take a look. I'm going to start coughing like crazy now. All right, I'm going to wrap this up before I go coughing like crazy. And I'll see you guys on the discussion boards and hopefully tomorrow in lecture. All right, guys, have a great night. Enjoy the last of your holiday here, and I'll see you guys tomorrow, hopefully. All right, have a great night. Thank you.